He now licks the knife. Mind you, as he's licking, also blood is coming out from his own tongue, on top of the blood of whoever the hell he's sprinkled on his face. He licks the knife. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another episode of Looks and Crooks, where I do a makeup look and I tell you a true crime story. So honestly guys, for the first time I've woken up dead in the middle of the night. I am a night runner. Are you even hearing the husk in my voice? Oh, I like when a voice is husky. It's giving sex. It's giving sexy. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm actually up in the middle of the night. So, and this, can you just, I want you to hear. The silence is wonderful. It's beautiful. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. And anyway, without further ado, actually, I'm not gonna do the disclaimer of if you hear cars passing by, because ain't no fucking cars, but I want to see who's going to pass their car at 2 a.m. in the morning. Don't play with me, idiots. Anyway guys, without further ado, let's get right into this video. Today's story is a cautionary tale of those who are living in Europe and who want to migrate to Africa. There's a lot of beauty that's usually portrayed in Africa, which is very realistic. But when you do want to move to Africa, I think there are a few things that you should keep in mind. And today's story is just a cautionary tale on the story of Phil McLean and his wife, who moved all the way from Europe to come here to Africa to open up a beautiful restaurant business, only for the worst of the worst to happen to them, and only for them to be caught up in African black magic and African gang squabbles. This is a story that I hope you enjoy as much as I honestly was enjoyed and thrilled researching upon and recording it for you guys. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into this video. Now, first things first, we have to get into who is Phil McLean. Now, Phil McLean was born in Rhodesia. Oh, you guys, free my people. This is not my first language. I'm sorry. Phil McLean was born in Rhodesia, which is now known as Zimbabwe. Phil would relocate to Weymouth, Dorset, along with his family when he was still at a very young age. And Weymouth, Dorset is actually, it's an English town across like the English coast. And the reason his family would actually relocate there is because they wanted to go into the fish and boating industry. So when they moved there, they started their own little family business. Let me not call it little because, you know, they probably had enough money, child. He spent a majority of his life actually fishing, and when it was time like to take over the family business, he was actually ready because he understood the dynamics of how to run the business and everything. And so he was really the person who was groomed to take over his family business. However, the thing with Phil is that he didn't want to be a fisherman. He didn't want to be a fisher of men. So as soon as he got this family business, he started to feel, he got a feeling or a sense of there's more to life. There's more I could be doing to life. Now, he didn't really pursue these feelings or these emotions because honestly speaking, you know, when you grow up in an area and you just have all these feelings of, oh, I want to leave and I want to go, but you don't ever have really like the ball sacks to go. And it's like, this is already what you're used to. So why not just stick it out till death and, you know, you'll try again in the next life, child. But Phil would continue living his fisherman life. He actually got married in Dorset, and he was actually really living his normal guy life. It wasn't until Phil's family business took a very nasty turn because of the change in the economy. You guys, this economy is always fucking people over. We need to find a way to keep this economy stable. I cannot have my family have worked. Me, I've also been working. Then the economy wants to come and tell me fucking nonsense. Come on now. We need to find a way to stabilize this economy. It's too much. Anyway, Phil's life would go normally until the economy started to do shakara for him. And all of a sudden, Phil is looking at a family business that's in decline, and also the financial issues regarding his family business and the issues regarding, you know, the collapse basically of his family business really began to affect Phil's marriage. Because one thing that's very important in marriage is, you guys, and don't let anybody lie to you here, don't let anybody call you a gold digger or nothing, is the financial situation. Because obviously as a married couple, you need to be able to feel like, you know what, I'm stable, something is going on for me. You don't want to be sitting down looking at each other, asking each other what's wrong. However, the problem is it wasn't Phil's fault that the financial situation had taken such a plummet. However, his wife at the time did think that it was Phil's fault and he wasn't trying hard enough and he should be trying harder. Why are you not trying harder, Phil? So naturally, all the quarrels that arose from the family situation with the finances and everything led to Phil and his first wife actually getting a divorce. And good for her, you guys. I know a lot of you guys would think she's a gold digger, but just something, there's something to be said about you just being like, you know what? I'm not gonna accept this. Like, this is not what I'm here for. I didn't pay for this in my life. So you guys can actually suck my dick. I'm leaving. I'm not staying here in poverty so you guys can say I'm a loyal girly. Good for you, Miss Mayor. Anyway, now with Phil literally having his entire life fucking fall apart, he would soon realize that there was really no need to keep on trying at life in Dorset. Now remember in the beginning of this video, I said that Phil and his family would relocate to Dorset in England. The place that they were living before moving to Dorset in England was Rhodesia. Lakini, wow, you guys, Swahili is really in my bloodstream. However, Phil and his family would really have issues in Rhodesia because you guys realize that there was a lot of uprising in Africa during this time because many people wanted to get their freedom. Many people didn't want to be colonized anymore. So Phil and his family had originally just decided to relocate back to, Europe, not try to get killed in the crossfires, and they left. However, after the way his life had been going in Dorset, Phil actually looked at Manenos. He said, "You guys, there's no point. Why am I killing myself with a fish business that's dying? Why am I coming to die? I'm not even feeling at home here." Because it's a very important thing when you're born somewhere else and then you want to be moved and relocated to another new city. Like, you feel very at home, and Phil had felt this way for a long time. And seeing as his business had gone belly up, his wife has now left him. Phil honestly started contemplating his ability to move to Rhodesia. He was saying, like, there's nothing left for me here. If I stay here, all I'm getting is depression and I'm getting depressed. However, the problem is, in so much as Phil wanted to move, Phil didn't want to move to an entire new country by himself. It's like, okay, I don't know anybody. I really don't know what I'm gonna do. How will I move? He was feeling a bit nervous, which is very understandable, to be sincere with you guys. Like, even me, I wouldn't up and relocate to Sierra Leone or Congo by myself. And I know some of you will be like, oh my God, that's why you guys don't get blessings. You're so scared to do shit by yourself. I am scared because you don't know what can happen to you in that country. Like, you need to go with someone so that just in case anything happens to you, there's someone to even account for your loss, bro. Because this man has no wife. From what it's seeming, him and his family haven't been speaking. And so, yeah, you would need someone to relocate with. Anyway, moving on with the story. So Phil was heavily contemplating moving back to Zimbabwe. And at this point, he just needed a spark to ignite the fire. And the spark would finally come when he met his future wife-to-be, Miss Lynn McLean. Now, Lynn was also a native in Dorset. However, different from Phil, Lynn had actually never left Dorset. She was born in Dorset. She grew up in Dorset. But she didn't feel like Dorset was the place to be. She always felt like there was more adventure in the world. And during this time, because of colonialism and everything, they were always hearing stories about how there's so many beautiful places to go, etc. So she wanted to travel. She wanted to see the world. She didn't want to stay in small Dorset. So immediately the two of them met. They find each other very sexually attractive. And on top of the sexual attraction, as soon as they spoke and they started talking about how shitty Dorset is, they were like, well, fuck this. Like, let's leave. Like, what the fuck's going on here, baby? The two of them get to organizing. Miss Lynn advises Mr. Phil that sell your family business. Why are you coming to die? Why are you coming to die? You don't need to come and die here for these people. These people don't care. You need to live your life, boo. And honestly, Phil didn't need that much convincing because, like I said, Phil was already contemplating moving from Dorset to go all the way back to Rhodesia. So Lynn managed to convince Phil sell the business. Phil, listen to me, you guys, because people are crazy. Phil not only sold his family business. He sold his family business. On top of selling his family business, he also continued to sell his family house. The one that they had been mortgaging for years with his ex-wife. He just sold it. All that struggle and strife and depriving yourself of eating this specific meal so you can have enough money to make the mortgage. If I was the ex-wife, I'd be pissed because we bought this house together. Now you want to be selling it. Why? Anyway, the two of them sell the house, sell the family business, and they get money from the house and the family business, and they decide to start to look to move to Rhodesia. However, I have one question. So what exactly has Lynn contributed to all of this? Because you know the girl is actually, this is a smart girl. She has managed to, she's met this man, managed to convince him sell your family business. After selling the family business, she's just moved. Her entire dream of traveling has just been brought by this one solution. I cannot knock a good hustle. Now, in the process of organizing their move to Rhodesia, the two of them actually would decide not to move to Rhodesia because I don't know, maybe they felt like Phil had already seen that, so they want to see something different. And the two of them decided to move to the Gambia. And this would have really proved to be a very bad decision for the two of them because let me tell you one thing. If you're going somewhere, like I feel like if you want to relocate somewhere, please visit the place first, you guys. You don't just up and decide to go somewhere where you've never been, because had they gone to Rhodesia, at least the thing would have been that at least Phil understands the dynamics of how Rhodesia/Zimbabwe works. But they two just decided, you know, we're not going there again. We want to go to see what's going on there in the Gambia. So the two of them relocated to Gambia. So the couple would arrive in Gambia in November of 1990, and the two of them would start to make friends quite quickly. Honestly speaking, and I'm not saying it in a mean way, but I feel like if you're a tourist, people are going to want to be your friend. It's very different like if you're a local. When you're a local, you guys, nobody's even checking for you like that. Like, are you stupid? The hell do you think you are? Are you mad? Have you lost the plot? The two of them would make friends very quickly, and they would go to like pubs and bars and things like that, and just like look around and just interact with the local people and also the other tourists that were coming. Now, as Phil and Lynn were doing all of this, you know, getting to know each other, getting to know other people at the same time, etc., the two of them would quickly realize that there was a serious market for tourists and tourism in the Gambia, because during colonial times, you know, British people just used to travel to these places at very cheap prices. They still travel to these places at cheap prices, if I'm being sincere, because it's different if you as an African want to go and visit Europe as opposed to them coming. They don't need a visa. Like, so much is okay. Like, I guess, child. But the two of them would quickly realize that there was a lot of market for tourists and tourism. So they would quickly decide to actually get into the business of running a motel together, where they would obviously house tourists and locals alike, and people could come and drink and party regardless of whether they're going to stay at the motel or not. Now, they would plunge their life savings into this endeavor, which is another thing I didn't understand. Like, girl, why are you throwing all of your life savings that you've just come to make just the other day? You want to throw it into a restaurant business. And I hope you guys know that restaurants take like 5 years to make money. But okay, I guess this was their dream. I guess this was their little dream. So they decided this is what we're gonna do. They threw all their money into this endeavor, and they started to look for a property to rent. The two of them would actually be referred to a property by a friend that they had met in the Gambia, or a friend they had actually met on one of their party occasions these days. And they were referred to a property within their price range. Said property was very much so within their price range. However, the issue now became that the property itself was within their price range because, like, it was basically a homeless shelter for people. So one, they had to go and kick out all the homeless people. Two, they had to now repaint everywhere. Three, they had to install electricity. Like, they had so many renovations that the renovations even passed the cost of the house. They actually spent £70,000 to renovate back in the day. So that's $90,000. That's about $90,000 today's money. The property was about like $7,000. Ask me why. I don't know. You see, you guys need to make money-minded decisions. Like, I don't understand why, but I guess maybe the renovations are once and you don't have to pay them again. So I guess it was a smart decision, but I wouldn't just renovate something for 90K, and I've got it for 7K. Am I mad? Anyway, so after kicking out all the homeless people and renovating the place, the two of them started their business. Their business would honestly be booming. And within the first year that they were in the Gambia and the first year that they started this business, it would soon become the hotspot in town. Not only would, you know, the local people go there, but also because they were Europeans and they did like make other Europeans feel comfortable, etc., a lot of the white tourists who came to Gambia would obviously come and stay at their place. Like, they would feel more welcome. These people also cook cooked more European type dishes. So people actually felt welcome because they felt like at least this is like some normalcy apart. Seeing as I've just left my home, I want to feel like a bit safe. So the two of them would create this thing, and it would honestly boom everywhere. Now the problem is, and this is why I'm saying that if you're a European or from anywhere else, because right now this whole great migration thing is going on and a lot of people want to come back to Africa, this is something that you have to keep in mind. The problem is you've come in as a foreigner to come and be dominating a market that previously was dominated by the locals. So for them, they look at it like you are an outsider coming to steal our competition, coming to steal our market. And by the time April 1991 was rolling out, a year after they had already started this business, things really started to look south for these people. They were getting death threats. They were getting into more conflicts and tensions with the police officers, with them constantly being sent over to come and look at, false reports that there was hygiene issues, false reports that there was this issue, that issue. So they got more of people trying to shut them down. And it was honestly out of jealousy, because how can you move from America and come and dominate what's going on here? Not that. That's what I'll tell you. That's what's not going to happen. So people were trying to shut them down. Now, the two of them, obviously, Phil and Lynn, would realize this very soon. So they always kept their bar on top. You couldn't get them legally in terms of you sending officers to say they don't have their license, they have their license. You can't get them by saying they don't have their CGE hygiene protocol, they have their hygiene protocol. So everything was good. For them, lawfully, everything was good. And they thought that this would stop people. But they forgot that in Africa, it's not just the law that is going to be your problem. There's another way to get somebody, but not just legally. There's always a way to catch them, to collect you where you are. And that's where we now get into the story of Nick and John, who entered the couple's lives in April of 1991. So, who was Nick? I'm going to start with Nick. One afternoon in April of 1991, a man staggered into the bar area of Mr. Phil and Lynn McLean's motel. So the man was a white man, and he seemed to honestly be beaten up and wounded pretty badly. In so much as he was beaten up and wounded pretty badly, my first question would have been why are you coming to my place? Why out of all these places, why here? But that's not what Lynn and Mr. Phil did, because they're better people than I am. So they took Mr. Nick in and they cleaned him up. They helped him. Lynn actually nursed him right back to health, which took about 2 weeks, but she did it. Our girl said, I'm going to do it, and she did it. She nursed him back to health. And when Nick came around, that's when he said, my name is Nick. And he said that he had been assaulted by a local gang that had just robbed him, taken his money, and ran away, and he didn't know what to do. He said he was out of a job, he didn't have his papers and everything, so he said he just really needed someone to help him. Now, naturally, Lynn and Phil, not realizing that you don't just go around doing this kind of thing and taking strangers in, they agreed for Mr. Nick to actually stay with them and become their on campus worker. I believe this is honestly partially because Phil, during his time in the Gambia, had made very little local friends, because one of the things that I'm saying, jealousy, people were jealous of their business and the way it was thriving, and two, the fact that he was always busy, so he had nobody to actually socially interact with, etc. So him taking on Nick, who was his fellow European man, he would understand each other, they could rapport, they had the same type of banter, so the two of them got along, and honestly, this really made Phil want to keep Nick with them even longer. So they would teach Nick the family business, and they would get him indoctrinated basically, and he was working back to back. The people who worked under them would honestly respect Nick the way they would respect Phil, or they would respect Miss Lynn. Now, the business was going amazing by 1991, like I'm saying, and all of the efforts to try and bring them down would not work. And with Nick added onto the mix, everything was going perfect. Everything was going great. It was at this point that the family, or the two, Phil and Lynn, decided that they wanted to go back home to visit their families and see how everything has been going home. And they actually missed that shitty little town, Dorset, that they had left in the first place. So both of them now decide to go back to Dorset. And this is at the point where a man now enters their life as they're organizing their way that they're going to be going back to visit their people back home. This man's name was John. Now, over the course of the evenings, John would be a local man that would actually, who was from the Gambia, who would come in and drink, and he would drink a lot, but he wouldn't like cause a fracas. So many people didn't have issues with him, but John was somebody who became very, very close with Nick. Nick being the white man who had stumbled in, having been battered by everybody else outside. John and Nick would form a very close relationship. Ooh, not me choking, child. John and Nick would form a very close relationship, and the two of them would quickly but surely become something or somewhat of best friends. Now, because Phil obviously liked Mr. Nick, and he didn't want anything to happen between Nick and his own friendship, he allowed Nick to be able to continue this friendship with John, even though John was a bit of a shady character. He was a bit silent, and he was a bit different from the rest of the locals because Gambia was a predominantly Muslim country. John being a Gambian who drinks, it did stand out a bit, and the fact that also John was quite silent, etc. He had a bit of shady tendencies and unusual tendencies. Naturally, because Phil didn't want to threaten his relationship with his pal Nick, he decided to just allow the friendship between John and Nick, no matter how shady, to continue. Now, the shadiness of this relationship would truly become apparent when Phil's wife Lynn would actually come and tell Phil that, hey, I've been hearing Nick and John whispering. Every time they're talking in whispers, they never want me to hear what they're talking about. They never want me to know what's going on. And Lynn actually told Phil that one time she was eavesdropping and she was listening to them talking about money, but in the millions. Like, they were saying, when is this type of millions of dollars coming in? What? But Phil didn't really think much of it. Maybe he thought maybe they're talking about betting or the next lottery ticket or something. It can't be that they're talking about like any kind of serious thing. Woe on him, because they've told you guys to listen to your wives. You don't want to listen. Abi, Shebi, you don't want to listen. Cool. So the relationship between Mr. Nick and John is ongoing. Phil doesn't want to interrupt in it. Lynn doesn't trust the relationship, but as she's telling Phil doesn't want to ruin his relationship with Mr. Nick. So he's deciding, I'm gonna stay out of it. Right. Fast forward to now, Phil and Lynn deciding to go back to visit their family back home in Europe, in Dorset, in that shitty town Dorset. So the two of them would decide to visit Dorset. And naturally, because Phil and Lynn had nobody else to leave in charge of the business apart from Nick, they would ask Nick to please take care of the family business for them, and that, obviously they trust him and he's the only one who can do this job. So they basically asked him. Nick said, yes, I'll take care of the family business. You don't worry about a fucking thing. Everything will be okay. Now, after, everybody has discussed the running of the operations, as these two are not going to be around, Mr. Phil is now pulled aside by Nick. Now, Nick asks Phil a favor, to please carry something for him as he's going back to Dorset and take it to, a jeweler and sell it to the guy and see how much money he can get for it. If he gets any money, then he brings it back to him. So, Mr. Phil is obviously like, okay, what do you want me to take to the jewelers? Nick tells Phil that, hey, I just want you to take these specific diamonds, and this is actually not a favor for me. It's a favor I'm asking on behalf of John. Remember John, his drunken Gambian friend who used to just come always by the pub and everything. So Phil was a bit confused, wondering why obviously John couldn't have come to ask me this himself, but he didn't really say anything. He was like, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, people maybe he felt a bit more comfortable sending somebody to ask him instead of coming to be asking it by himself. So naturally, Phil said yes, because like I said, Phil really liked Nick and he didn't want Nick to ever stop being his friend, because Phil had no friend. So as the trip is being organized, Phil has now carried the diamonds given to him by Nick on behalf of John, and he's gone to Dorset. And as soon as actually he arrives in Dorset, the very next day, he decides to go to the jewelers immediately. Upon arriving at the jewelers, Phil would be told something very interesting by the jeweler. The jeweler took one look at these diamonds that he was given, and he was told, and he just said, who gave you this shit? This is some fake shit. Have you lost your mind? Have you actually lost your mind? The jeweler told this guy that this is fake. These diamonds are fake. In fact, these are the fakest diamonds I've ever seen. To the extent where he even crushed one of them to just demonstrate exactly how fake this is. Because if you guys didn't know, diamonds don't break. Apparently, from what I've heard, I hope I'll hold one, but apparently from what I've heard, diamonds don't crack. And if a diamond breaks or cracks, that's how you know that the diamond isn't real. So now Phil is being told that these things are not real, etc. So he just decides, the Gambian man, John, obviously scammed the white man, Nick, and gave him these diamonds, and obviously Nick has been scammed. He's now determined that when he goes back to Gambia, he's going to put an end to the relationship between Nick and John, because he feels like, obviously Nick is being scammed by John, and John is taking advantage of the good white man, Nick. He becomes very determined to obviously put an end to this relationship. However, when he as soon as, and when I say as soon as, I mean as soon as Phil arrives in his house at Dorset, obviously because now this time they're in England at this moment, he arrives back home at Dorset, and he's about to now go and tell his wife the super gist that he's just received, that, Nick has been scammed and been given some four diamonds by, John. He enters the house, and Lynn is there sitting scared and looking at him in a panic. So now naturally, he asks his babe, "What's going on, baby? What's going on? What's good, sweetie?" And his babe tells him that, "I have just received a phone call from our friends back in the Gambia, and they've told me that there is trouble brewing at our restaurant." Now, these guys, as I told you guys, threw their entire life savings into this restaurant. So there's nothing that this restaurant wants to come and do, there's trouble brewing. Like, trouble can never brew, because if trouble brews, we may as well be homeless. Like, what? Don't say that. So Nick now, so Phil, hearing this now, obviously gets back on the phone with the friend that's obviously called them to tell them that, hey, trouble is brewing back home, and he asks what's going on. And the friend is being very vague, and those people who like to do like something is going on, something is happening, but you're trying to ask them, okay, what's going on, what's happening? They're telling you, you just come. You just make your way here. Make your way here. Bro, I hate you guys. Just see the problem. Like, you guys want to be movie stars so bad, because there's no explanation as to why you as a grown individual doesn't want to actually come and tell the truth. You want to be telling me just come and doing up suspense. Anyway, so they do up the nonsense of suspense for this poor man, and this poor man obviously takes the next flight right out of Dorset. On his travels, he decides not to go with Lynn, because just in case there was problems, he didn't want any problems to brew for his baby girl. Okay? So Mr. Phil makes his way back home to the Gambia, and upon his arrival, you guys, let me tell you, this man, I've never seen a man surprised the way he was surprised. The kind of thing waiting back for him at Gambia should be illegal. It should be illegal to allow people to come back to something like this. So Phil gets back to the hotel, but as he's now gets out of the car, gets his bags out of the car, he's looking around trying to find his hotel. He's like, where could my hotel be? Because the building he's looking at, he's like, I know this isn't my hotel. I know this is not the place. So where exactly could it be? Because you guys have to stop fucking with my mind. Where is my hotel? You guys, his entire hotel, you guys, had been stripped of everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. There was no tables, there was no chairs, there was nothing. In fact, even the homeless people they had chased away in the beginning had come back, because they were like, our house don't open now. So they moved back. So now Phil is looking around, wondering where the fuck is the guy who he left in charge. And that is his best friend McDonald, Mr. Nick. Nick was nowhere to be seen. Phil is now here really losing his mind. Phil is now really wondering what the fuck's going on. All my life savings are here. I don't even have a house because I mortgaged off. I gave away the house that I had been working on in terms of mortgage. So now he's really looking up and looking scared, and he's very, very afraid. In the midst of all this, coming to the realization that, oh my God, maybe like what the fuck is happening, etc. All of a sudden, Phil now hears John, the black African Gambian man, coming to him with the vengeance. John is walking down the road really shouting for Phil, saying, yo, he's mad. And not only is John upset, John has also come with his friends, who are also looking more upset or even more upset than John himself. John walks right the fuck up to Phil and he says, where are my diamonds? Phil's still trying to process all the shit that has just happened to him with regards to this entire debacle of finding that his entire house has been ransacked and gone. He's now angry. So obviously, as he's explaining to John the whole diamond situation, he's not finding it funny. He now starts to tell him, you even have no right to be asking me about those diamonds, because you are trying to cheat my friend, what. This man, John, looks at Phil and says, what are you fucking talking about? What do you mean I was trying to cheat your friend? Your friend literally told me he gave you my diamonds. Stop fucking with me. Where are my diamonds? So now Phil takes out the diamonds from his pocket and he throws them at John and tells John, take these your stupid fake ass diamonds. I don't even need them again. Bro, when I tell you John lost his shit, I mean John lost his shit. John says, what are you talking about? These diamonds are not fake. These diamonds are probably the realest shit you ever seen in your life. Like, don't fuck with me. And now Phil is now starting to explain to John how these diamonds are fake, how he went to the jeweler in England and the guy in England literally looked at them and said without a shackle of a doubt, these are some fake ass diamonds. Immediately as he finished saying this story, this John guy lost it. This guy grabbed him there. He grabbed him there, beat him up, threw him to the ground, beat him up with his friends, kicked him on the ground. Like, you guys, this man was literally assaulted. And as he finished, he said, me, I don't know what you're talking about. Me, I know the diamonds that I gave to John, that I gave to Nick to give to you, I know that was some real ass shit. So me, I want you to now get it together and go out there and find wherever the hell my diamonds are. Because I'm not playing these stupid games with you. These kind of stupid games you're trying to play with me, I'm not fucking with you. Now, I just want to take a break to really just analyze the kind of trauma that this one man is undergoing. You've just come back. Your entire business is gone tits up. You've now been assaulted because of alleged diamond. And this is why I don't do people favors. Like, these favors for, oh my God, can you please help me and take this to so and so? No, because if now that thing was containing bomb, that's how me I'll be called Al-Shabaab. I'm not doing that shit with anybody. Anyway, so as now Phil is on the ground there, he's really still on the ground holding his rib cage because they've just kicked him and beaten him to the fucking ground. He's now starting to really contemplate and he's now starting to think that, oh shit, maybe the guy who was really my best friend and doing our best friendship, maybe he's not as clean as we thought. Maybe he's really not the guy that I thought he was. So now he quickly realizes that his life could very much well be in danger. So as soon as he gets himself together, he stands up holding his ribcage, he's now limping. He makes one of the stupidest decisions you can actually make, and he goes to the African police. And one thing about the African police, when it comes to this kind of gang activity, they're not gonna do shit for you. In fact, they might even be members of the gang. Arrived at the police station, he runs in, he's holding his rib cage, he's saying, oh my God, please help me, they're trying to kill me. And he now starts to tell the officer there, he starts to now say, I want to make a police report, I want to report an injustice, I want to report a crime. And as he's reporting this crime, tell me why this man doesn't see somebody coming out of the back laughing. Actually, not see. He hears somebody coming out of the back just doing... He was hearing a huge chuckle from the back, only for him to look up like this. Tell me why it wasn't John coming out from the back to laugh at this man. John, who had just come from beating him up. Turns out John is actually best friends with the police department. Africa is actually a very scary place, you guys. What the hell? John comes out laughing and he looks at Phil and says, all this one you're doing is hearsay. All this one you're doing is a waste of fucking time. Because if you don't have my diamonds by next week, I will either off you, that is you, or you will have to give me 250,000 pounds, which back in the day, 250,000 pounds is now in today's money, $316,000. This man has just lost his business. His business that he had just thrown all his life savings into. Where on God's earth is he supposed to find by the end of the week $316,000? Even that his restaurant wasn't making $316,000. Me, I know. I know it. Now, as Mr. Phil is being talked to by Mr. John at the police station where he went to seek proper asylum, he's now taken and thrown into jail, which is what happens in a lot of these situations in Africa, where you think the police are going to help you, but you go there, you realize all of them are actually in fact in cahoots, and naturally they throw you in jail and they still want you to be able to produce their money. So now he's confused. You guys, let me tell you the jail conditions, please. The jail conditions in Africa should actually be considered a human rights violation. This one jail, you guys, one cell, actually, he was thrown into one cell. This one cell contained 8 people and 1 bucket. The 1 bucket would be used to shit, and the 1 bucket was being shut in and not cleared. So naturally, the bucket was filled with shit and piss to the point where it overflowed onto the ground. This is the same ground that these people are sitting on and being thrown for food on, because they weren't being fed in plates, the food was being thrown on the ground, and they're still sitting on this same ground, and they're still having shit on this same ground. So obviously this guy is really in horrific living situations. And remember, he's left his baby girl back home because his baby girl, he didn't want her to come and endure this suffering. So in short, nobody knows he's in here because he didn't even inform any of his friends he had arrived. He just got home, went directly to the place, was fighting with this guy, came to the police station, and now he's in problem. He's landed himself in Wahala. So obviously, as all of this is happening, he's now thinking, how the hell am I going to leave this place, etc. As he's now trying to talk to the guard, saying, I have rights, I demand a lawyer. For we are in Africa, you are silly. You probably lost the plot. Actually, I demand my rights. In fact, when you start to say I demand my rights in Africa is when they're like, okay, so you think you're the real lawyer. You think you're the real lawyer, the lawyer. Okay, we'll show you Pepe. So as he's now saying, I demand my rights, I demand to speak to somebody, the police people are like, okay, you want to see somebody? Cool, fine. So they call for him, somebody to come and see. The person they call for him is actually an investigator that honestly was quite nice. Like, he entered the room, him and the investigator were talking, the two of them were really getting along. The investigator really came up to him, he said, okay, what's going on, Phil? Phil, tell me what's wrong. Tell me what's happening here. And Phil actually and the investigator developed a very great rapport. The two of them, Phil felt like the guy actually understood what he was going through and he trusted the guy to be very sincere. Phil tells him the whole story, and at the end of this story, this guy says, this is so unfortunate. The injustice happening to you is so unfortunate. And he's just like, but let me tell you, I can help you. I'm the real guy that can hold down anything. Forget all these boys. He tells Phil that all Phil needs to do is sign a document, and as soon as he signs the document, he can leave. Immediately, actually, he said, as soon as you're signing this document, I will be signing your release forms. That's what I'll be doing. I won't be sitting here. I will be signing your release forms. So Phil says, for real, say swear. The guy is like, yeah, I swear. So Phil asks for the document to be brought to him, and the documents are actually brought to him. And Phil is given a pen, and he's being really pushed to sign now. So automatically, Phil now begins to wonder, okay, what am I actually going to be signing? So he now begins to read what he's being told to sign, only to see there, I, Phil McLean, do swear that this is my